Gloria Govan, and again, Gloria, thank you so much for connecting us with Susan. And Gloria's background as a licensed industry specialist is really an enthusiast, and also provided some inspiration to us to really bring together a group of people to really talk about this exciting industry and how we might serve that industry. But I'm wondering, Gloria or Jason, if you have some additional thoughts around 280E, and what some advice might be on areas to really focus on, in addition to what Susan has really shared with us. So Gloria, I know you're also an entrepreneur. With respect to any industry, you fight the challenges of finding the right talent, to work your stores. And so what other comments might you offer around some of the traits around talent, and how you might manage that talent with process and technological solutions?
Thank you. No, absolutely. I think, Susan made amazing points and things that I would like to reiterate as well. I think when starting in the cannabis industry, a lot of people feel like, we're in the ninth inning of the cannabis industry, but in reality, because of its ever evolving, regulations and standards, we're really just kind of, scratching the surface. Obviously, cannabis has been around forever. And with the new laws, I think that people are starting to feel as though, it's obviously a blooming, multi-billion-dollar industry, and it'll only continue to get larger. And I feel what a lot of people end up doing is rushing into the industry, to Susan's point. They feel like they got to get in here now. It's a very saturated industry as it is. I feel like a lot of people's mind is like, get it done now. And what happens is they end up, taking shortcuts, whether it's in hiring people, whether it's in, your tax filing, just setting your company up in general. I think a lot of people should focus on creating a brand and not necessarily something that's trendy. Identifying yourself, as a key, stakeholder in the industry is going to be vital to your long-term lifespan, in the space. In a few years, the bigger conglomerates, although they have already started to, take foot in progress into industries, buying farms and buying up companies, you're going to have to be one of those brands that are worth value, like Susan's, and, like what we're trying to create, in order to not get swallowed up, not get pushed off the shelf. I think what happens is, if you just know business in general, right? Like, where do you place your product on the shelves? What cannabis dispensaries are, going to be best to place your product in? Shopify, are you CBD? Are you hemp? Are you full spectrum? I mean, there are so many different terms. I think that a lot of people just skip over completely, just a blanket foundation of vocabulary to be able to walk through the cannabis industry. Because what ends up happening too with people like Susan and myself is, we can kind of sniff out people who are playing a part, when they go, well, I'm a master grower, and you start asking questions and they're like, and you're like, okay, well, then there you go. So I think really just doing your homework before diving in head first. But if it's something that you're genuinely passionate about, I think this industry is great for everyone. I got into the industry because of my mom and her breast cancer, and it just spiraled into a passion of myself, and being an entrepreneur, taking I was not at all in any way a user or familiar with cannabis, but like to Susan's point, I just took my background in business and entrepreneurship in general and applied it to cannabis, and then I kind of, reevaluated how to approach cannabis given what I already, knew. And that was really helpful as well. So I would encourage anybody to get in the industry. I don't want to discourage anyone, but just I think just take your time, and knowing that you don't necessarily have to rush. And what ends up happening is that you lose, you lose a lot of money, a lot of time, and you don't identify yourself as a brand, which is really important here. That's really the only way, you're going to stand out, and you're going to last in such a, in such a robust space.
Yeah, well, thank you for those insights. Very complimentary to the strategies that Susan has introduced, and then the application, Gloria, that you've just shared with us of those strategies. I'd like to thank all of our panelists, but certainly, our industry insider, that's, Susan, and Gloria, our industry specialist that has carried a license, and you heard her story. So Gloria, why don't we, if you're there, Gloria, why don't you offer a couple of parting shots, and then Susan will hand it off to you, and then we'll toss it back to Larissa.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you, Robert. And thank you for the opportunity to be on the panel. I'm always excited, to help educate anybody who's really interested. I think education is a key component that people miss out on really focusing on, is really educating themselves on the industry. Although cannabis itself should be viewed as a business, because that's what it essentially is a business, and identifying, culture, your team, and team is very important. I mean, Susan and I can talk about the turnover of employees, forever, and the trust, and some of the, risk factors of just people stealing from you, the loyalty, and like she said, even just taking a third party to audit not only yourself but your company, because mitigating the risk for purchase from a conglomerate is huge. You don't want to, be offered to be your company or your brand to be purchased, and then realize that you owe $450,000 in taxes, right? And you're like,
yes,
so that, really just staying on top of, your employees, staying on top of your taxes, and funding is a huge part of it. And, to Susan's point, there are many strings attached to funding, especially in cannabis. And I think a lot of people have unrealistic expectations just based off of kind of like these, like 1 in a million, purchases. They're like, oh, if we get into cannabis, we could be purchased by, X, Y, and Z for $1 gajillion. And you're like, no, that's cute. But those are kind of those 1 in a million. I think take your time, and scaling is huge. A lot of people, to everyone's point, they want to sprint to the finish line, assuming that this business is going to shut down. Like the cannabis space is just going to shut down and no one's ever going to be allowed in it. And that's not the case at all. If you are getting into the space now and you're new, it's okay to take your time and do things correctly. You don't have to feel like you have to make shortcuts and hire the wrong people, or listen to, or not you do your due diligence on those who you are taking advice from, which could lead you down to a path, or the wrong path rather. So I would just suggest take your time, really just do your due diligence. Why are you in the space? I think a lot of people are in it because it's it's the green rush, rather than their genuine interest, their genuine passion. You can hear Susan's passion in what she does.
yes,
And, and that's huge. And that's why she's been so, powerful. And that's why she is in a position she is in today. Our passion is driven, from experience, from wanting to help other people. And we apply, again, our expertise from a different spaces into the cannabis industry, not the other way around. So, I'm excited for anyone who's jumping in on this, this industry. We're here to help. We always love talking to people, educating people, and shadowing or mentoring other people. And this is a continuous space like any other business, where it's ever evolving and changing. So, you have to although you have to have your running shoes on, just know that you don't necessarily have to be sprinting, because we're all changing to the new regulations and laws, and those will be, to, I believe it was Craig's point, the Harborside case is going to be huge for the entire industry. It could change overnight. Yes. Coronavirus has changed the industry overnight. Yes. So, so yeah, you have to be fluid, and so, yes.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Gloria.